Here's a question every leader should regularly ask. Is this actually working? Not, are we busy? Not, did we run the program? Not, did everyone show up? But is what we're doing producing the fruit we intended? Because one of the most important parts of leadership is something we don't often make time for: evaluation. Most leaders spend almost all their time working in the ministry, preparing, teaching, organizing, leading, solving problems, running meetings, dealing with people, and then go home and do it all again next week. But successful organizations don't just work in what they're doing, they also work on what they are doing. They stop. They look at what happened. They ask what worked. They ask what didn't. Then they make adjustments. That process of evaluation isn't something we do when everything else is finished. It's part of the work, and it may be one of the most important parts of the work. Think about walking into a room that smells bad. At first, you notice it immediately. But if you stay there long enough, something strange happens. You stop noticing the smell. Your brain adapts to it. Then someone walks in from outside and says, "Can't you smell that?" And you suddenly realize, actually, yes. The same thing can happen in a ministry. We become so familiar with our environment that we stop seeing what an outsider sees. We've always done it this way. We've always used these words. We've always structured the meeting this way. We've always had this program. And eventually we stop noticing the things that aren't working. That's why we need to deliberately step outside our environment and look at it again. So here's a practical suggestion. Schedule evaluation. Perhaps every week. Take some time to rethink what happened in each environment or step. What happened? What did we expect? What actually happened? What worked? What didn't? What did we learn? What should we change before we do it again? And here's the important part. Put it in the calendar. Because if evaluation isn't built into your schedule, you probably won't do it. Our schedules are too busy. There's always another urgent problem, another meeting, another sermon, another event, another person who needs something. Evaluation is really urgent until it becomes urgent. So make it important before it becomes urgent. And what are we evaluating? We're not simply asking, did we enjoy the program? We're evaluating whether our environments and steps are functioning according to the plan and the vision. Remember the earlier principles. We started with, what is Jesus calling us to do? Then we thought in terms of steps. Then we planned the work. Then we cast the vision. Then we thought about how we communicate. Then we listened to outsiders. And now we ask, is it actually working? Are people taking the next step? Are people growing? Are we seeing fruit? Are outsiders returning? Are people being discipled? Are we moving toward the vision? In simple terms, are we winning? Here's another simple exercise. Ask leaders to occasionally take a break from their own environment and attend somebody else's. Why? Because when you're responsible for something, you see it differently. You know how much work went into it. You know why decisions are made. You know what you're trying to accomplish. But someone else can walk in and see it with fresh eyes. They may notice something you've stopped noticing. Sometimes the best way to evaluate an environment is to experience it as someone else would. And there's another part of evaluation that we often overlook. Plan for growth. Don't wait until growth happens before asking what you're going to do. Ask now. If this environment doubles in size, what will break? If more visitors come, can we handle them? If more children arrive, do we have enough leaders? If more people join community groups, do we have enough trained leaders? If more people become believers, what is their next step? If the answer is no, that is not necessarily a reason to stop. It may be a reason to prepare. So assume growth. Prepare your environments for growth. Act as though then is now, and trust God for the growth. Don't wait for the harvest before you prepare the barns. Evaluation also requires the right culture. People need to be able to say, I don't think this is working, without feeling that they are attacking the leader. Create an environment where people can debate openly. Let people be heard. Ask, what are we missing? What do I need to see that I don't see? What would you change? But there's a balance here. If every evaluation meeting becomes a list of everything that's wrong, people will eventually become discouraged. So don't just identify the problems. Celebrate the successes. Celebrate what worked. Celebrate the people who served. Celebrate the progress. Celebrate the small wins, because evaluation isn't about proving what we got wrong. It's about getting better. And one of the best ways to celebrate progress is through stories. Tell the story of the email you received. Tell the story of the conversation after the service. Tell the story of the visitor who came back. Tell the story of the child who suddenly understood something. Tell the story of the person who took their next step. These stories help people recognize God's activity, and they help people realize I'm part of something bigger than myself. And that's powerful. People aren't simply serving in a children's program. They're participating in the vision. They're not simply setting up chairs. They're helping create an environment where people can encounter Jesus. They're not simply leading a community group. They're helping people grow. The stories help people see the connection between what they're doing and what God is doing. There's actually a beautiful biblical principle behind this. Throughout the Old Testament, God established times when His people would stop their normal activities and remember what He had done. The feast days weren't simply religious events. They created opportunities for God's people to remember, to reflect and tell the stories of what God had done. That's something we can learn from. If we're constantly moving forward without stopping to remember, we can easily become discouraged. We see all the things that still need to be done. But when we stop and look back, we can say, look what God has done, and then we can move forward again. So let's put the 6 principles together. Think steps and narrow the focus. Ask, what is the journey? Plan the work. Ask, what do we need to do to make each step work? Cast vision convincingly. Can we get people to see and embrace what we're trying to accomplish? Teach less for more. Are we communicating the things that actually matter in a way that people can remember and apply? Listen to outsiders. Are we hearing from the people we're trying to reach? And finally, keep working on it. Are we evaluating, learning, adjusting, and improving? Because none of these principles are one-time events. They form a cycle. Think, plan, communicate, teach, listen, evaluate, and then think again. And perhaps this brings us back to the question we started this leadership series with. Is it working? Or are we simply doing activity? Are we making disciples? Are people growing? Can we measure fruit? And ultimately, what would Jesus evaluate? Because one day our work will be evaluated. Not by how busy we were, not by how many programs we ran, not by how impressive our buildings were, but by whether we were faithful to what Jesus called us to do, and whether our work produced the fruit He desired. So don't just keep doing what you've always done. Keep working on it. Keep asking questions. Keep listening. Keep learning. Keep adjusting. Celebrate what God is doing. And then go back to work. Because the goal isn't to create a perfect ministry. The goal is to build a ministry that is continually becoming more effective at accomplishing what Jesus has called us to do.